Alrighty, so today we're gonna finish off the review for match week number 14, aka Heineken Rivalry Week Part 2, and it seems like the team that I root for that play in match week 14 could have an opposite fortune in terms of what happened in stoppage time, and we'll definitely get to that. But first of all, we start off with the Texas Derby, aka El Capitan, between Dallas and the Houston Dynamo, and it seems like it's once again back to being a tie fest because this rivalry we saw a couple of years ago, it seems like it always ends in a draw, and it seems like it's once again the case in this one. Though for Dallas, they will be very frustrating with this result because this is another game where we've seen this before from them. The inability to get that second goal and that killer goal comes back to haunt this team. Now, early on in the first half, it was actually the Dynamo started off the better team. Bassi had a shot that was deflected and it goes wide before Ibrahim would put it wide from close ranges. I thought Houston were the better team. They were on the front foot, looking to try to get the early goal. Though Clark did have to deny Vieira as that was the first shot for Dallas, and I thought Dallas kind of started to get into this game, but nevertheless, it was still kind of a slow start to this game with the way that the shots were only 2-2 through 30 minutes. In fact, the shots would actually be 3-2 in favor of Dallas as we head into the halftime. I mean, let's just say that this was definitely one of those Heineken rivalry week, unlike the one we talked about earlier, that show a lot of excitement that happened in this one. Though, that being said, in the second half, we did see the opening goal of the Texas Derby as O'Brien, which scores the opening goal for Dallas to make it 1-0 in favor of them. That has to feel good for Heather O'Brien, who has been kind of been snake bitten in the in this season, just unable to score a goal despite having multiple chances in these last couple of games. But he finally got on the score sheet, and what a way for you to kind of break a goal drought against your rival. So yeah, Dallas were up 1-0. Micio then missed wide from close range before Olferson was in on goal there, but he would like to have this one back. I mean, he missed that one wide despite the fact that he was in on goal, and I thought Houston kind of responded well. They were looking to try to get the equalizer, though the post denied O'Brien, and Dallas hit the second goal and also hit his second goal of the game, and that one would come back to bite Dallas because in the 86th minute, the Dynamo gets the equalizer. It's Olferson. He scored here from Herrera to tie the game up at one apiece. So a rare time we see the four getting the goal there, and again make up for his bad miss that he had in the 61st minute. We had some tempers flare near the end of this one as there was some pushing and shoving after a foul was called. Just a reminder that this is the Texas Derby. This is El Capitan. You're going to have some feistiness that has happened. I mean, not as much as what we saw last week between the game in Colorado and the Philadelphia Union. But nevertheless, it did end in a 1-1 draw in this one. As the shots in this one, 10 shots for the 8 that the Dynamo has, 2 shots on goal for the 5 that Dallas had. Both teams had 3 shots off target, 2 shots that was blocked for the 3 that the Dynamo has, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that Dallas has in this game. I believe this is the first time that Houston has been able to go on the road this season and did not drop all 3 points. This is I think their first draw of the season. Again, this is a team that have really struggled this year on the road, but again for Dallas, they will be very frustrating with this performance. I mean, they play well enough to get all 3 points in this one, but yeah, again, just not getting that second goal. How many times we've said it? When you don't kill the game off, it's gonna come back to haunt you, and that was the case for Dallas in this one. But moving on, in terms of the next match, we get to the Rocky Mountain Cup between Colorado and RSL. And by the way, in this review, we'll definitely talk a lot of rivalry game because I think the 5 of the 6 games that we're going to talk about are kind of considered to be rivalry game, and that include this one in the Rocky Mountain Cup, which was a high scoring affair. RSL able to hold on to win 3-2 in this one, and they kind of got off to a great start into this one, though the first shot of the game did came for the Rapids as McMath was able to tip Acosta shot onto the post. But then in the 12th minute, RSL takes the lead. It's Pablo Ruiz. He scored from Hidalgo to make it 1-0 in favor of RSL. Maybe a little fortunate there for RSL because it did take a wicked deflection, but RSL wouldn't care. They were up 1-0 against the Rapids. Vera trying to make it 2-0, but he puts it just wide from close range before it was 2-0 as Maswowski would score in the 21st minute to give RSL a 2-0 lead. It was a dream start for the visitor, but man, the Rapids, they were looking all over the place at the back. And that's something you just haven't seen from Robin Fraser team. This has been a team that, ever since that disastrous start to the season, they have definitely been much more locked down on the defensive end, but that was kind of not the case. I mean, they're leaving gaps for the 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 leaving gaps for RSL to exploit. Though that being said, in the 33rd minute, they did get one back as Danny Wilson would score from Roland to make it 2-1 in favor of RSL. That was pretty much a bread and butter play for the Rapids because we know that this has been a team for the past couple of years that are the kings of MLS in terms of scoring goals off of a corner. And there you go. That was a beautiful delivery there from Colin Rowland. And I think it's safe to say that while the quality of those delivery that we see Colin Rowland does compared to Jack Price, there's not really a lot of drop off. You could say that, the delivery of those corner from Colin Rowland is just as good as when Jack Price delivered that. So that's got to be great news for the Rapids, considering Jack Price isn't going to be not returning at the very earliest until next season. But yeah, that gives the Rapids a goal back in this one. Lewis did try to tie it, but he missed high there in the 40th minute. And this was your fault. Maybe the Rapids have some momentum and had a chance to tie the game up. Nope. Instead, they got themselves back to a two-goal deficit as Damir Krylak would score from Rubin and Jakobsen to make it 3-1 in favor of RSL. And again, just bad defending from the Rapids. This was very unorthodox, seeing a Robin Fraser team that has been so solid on the defensive front just kind of regressed badly in this one. There was a lot of ball washing that was going on in terms of the goal that they conceded there. But nevertheless, that made it 3-1, and that would be the scoreline heading into the second half. Now, in the second half, Rosenberry puts it wide from long range, as I thought Colorado had most of the possession and they were kind of controlling this game, though it was kind of more to the fact that, RSL was electing to sit back. They were looking to sit back, trying to hit on the transition and trying to seize out this 3-1 win, but it got a little bit dicey in the 74th minute because the Rapids would get one back again. And once again, it came off a set piece as Abubakar would score from Wilson here to make it 3-2 in favor of the Rapids. So not every day you see a defender getting a goal and an assist, and that's exactly what we saw with Danny Wilson here. And especially, it's also not every day you see both center backs combine on an assist. I mean, it's been a long time since I remember two center backs combined in an assist in Lawless Abubakar and Danny Wilson, but that's exactly what happened in this one. Again, it came off of a set piece, which is problem for RSL in this one. They just had a tough time in terms of dealing with those set pieces that the Rapids put it in. Lewis then shots one that was deflected and it goes wide, and it just kind of felt like RSL was looking like they're hanging on for dear life. Like, the Rapids were pushing man forward, trying to get themselves the equalizer. But fortunately for RSL, they hold on as they win 3-2 in this one. Shots in this one, 12 shots compared to 7 that RSL had. Both teams had 4 shots on goal, 4 shots off target for the 3 that RSL had. No shots that was blocked for the 4 that the Rapids had. And possession-wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession that RSL has in this game. And for Real Salt Lake, this is exactly what the doctor ordered because it's been a bad run for Pablo Mastroeni's side in the past couple of games. And we'll see whether this big Rocky Mountain Cup win will get themselves back on track. But for the Colorado Rapids, I mean, Robin Fraser will be very frustrating with this performance. Not just because they once again lost at home, dropped more points at home, but just the way they played. I mean, this looked nothing like a Rapids team we've seen in the past couple of games that has been very defensive or organized and able to kind of grind out victories like we've seen before. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next match. So besides the Hell is Real Derby, this is definitely one of the more talk about game between St. Louis and Sporting KC. I mean, I know there's not really a name in this rivalry, but I'm just gonna say it's the soccer capital derby because both of these teams are claiming that they are indeed the soccer capital of the U.S. Although again, the Portland Timbers would want to have a word with that. But in this derby, it seems like St. Louis basically claimed that they are indeed the soccer capital of the U.S. and win the soccer capital derby. And yeah, they put on a thumping in this one. And throughout this game, it was party atmosphere at City Park from minute 1 all the way to 90. In the first half, a lot of possession early for St. Louis, but I thought that was by design because we know that we've seen teams decide to give St. Louis more of the possession because they're basically asking St. Louis whether or not if they can have the quality to break down opposition, which at least for most part we haven't been able to see that. Though that kind of changed in this one. McIntosh then denied Stroud from close range before Leuven had a shot that was deflected and goes wide. It was all St. Louis early on. I mean, they started the better side. I mean, the crowd was definitely into this. Leuven then had a long range shot that goes high before the first shot for Sporting KC came in the 14th minute as Berkey had to deny Polito from close range. So that's just a quick reminder for St. Louis that yes, it's been a positive start, but Sporting KC, they have the quality to be able to strike one very quickly. Though the shots were still 4-2 in favor of St. Louis 15 minutes in. But then in the 18th minute, the first opportunity of seeing a goal in this derby happen, as a penalty was given to St. Louis after Radaho brought down Vasilev in the box, which Leuven basically steps up to take the penalty, and he slots this one home to give St. Louis a 1-0 lead. Shari did had a free header there, but just didn't really quite connect that one. Though what's kind of weird about this is that while this ball was kind of trickling in, and I was expecting Berkey to easily claim to it. I mean, I don't know what happened between Tim Parker and Roman Berkey because both of those guys they kind of just had a miscommunication. It's almost like they don't know whether or who is going to be the one that is dealing with it, and that ball was rolling toward goal. Like if that they had to do something because if that one row in, that I think would be probably one of the more embarrassing own goal or one of the more embarrassing goals that we see that got gone in and conceded from St. Louis. But fortunately, that wasn't the case as Parker at the last second just that one away. But Berkey and Parker is going to have some words with each other there after that because yeah, that was a little bit too nice see there. But that being said, in the 25th minute, St. Louis doubled their lead. It's Indiana Vasilev. He scored from Stroud to make it 2-0 in favor of St. Louis. And I thought the press was working for St. Louis. So we know that this team plays that Bull energy drink soccer kind of play, and that they were causing a lot of trouble for Sporting KC in terms of them just turning the ball over way too much in their own half. McIntosh then denied Giacchini from close range before Bartlett with flicked just wide from close. It was all St. Louis. Like they were putting wave after wave pressure on Sporting KC in this one. And again, the crowd at City Park, it was absolutely electric. Though we do head to halftime with St. Louis leading 2-0. Now in the second half, that pressure continued with Leuven hits it just wide from close range before Russell did heads it straight to Berkey. I think there was some early half chances for both of these teams, but St. Louis pretty much put this game without doubt as in the 55th minute. Giacchini, he scored here from Stroud to make it 3-0 in favor of St. Louis. It's no doubt that Giacchini had his best game in a St. Louis City uniform. I mean, that was kind of the thing that a lot of St. Louis fans were concerning because Giacchini doesn't really offer the same kind of quality going up front compared to what we see with Joe Claus, who they are really hoping that he's going to be back with this team sooner or later. But in this game, Giacchini really stepped up and again able to get on the score sheet here to make it 3-0. Voltaire then puts one into the stands, which again that's kind of sums up Sporting KC night. It was just not their night in this soccer capital derby. Before Berkey did deny Russell in the 73rd minute, and I thought St. Louis kind of started to put the foot off the gas a little bit. Sporting KC started to kind of get themselves back in this game, but instead in the 75th minute, Vasilev would score his second goal as he scored here from Ostrek to make it 4-0 in favor of St. Louis. I mean, at this point, it was not if St. Louis was going to win. It's just how many goals is St. Louis is going to pour on against the Sporting KC team. Though Dembele did miss wide from close range before Berkey. He robbed Russell from close range in the 86th minute. And while this game was in hand, it seems like it's like Roman Berkey. He really wanted to keep this clean sheet because he was working hard in terms of making those big saves to deny Sporting KC at least a goal in the soccer capital derby. But in the end, it's St. Louis getting the big victory over Sporting KC in this one. 4-0 was the final score. The stats, I know on paper it looked like it favored Sporting KC just a little bit. Maybe could have been a lot closer than the scoreline suggests. A lot of that has to do with the fact that St. Louis they kind of put their foot off the gas, let Sporting KC back into this game, which I think it's understandable when they were like 3-0 up in the one, though they did get outshot 17-15 in favor of Sporting KC. 7 shots on goal for the 6 that St. Louis had. Both teams had 6 shots off target, 3 shots on the floor compared to the 4 that Sporting KC had. And possession-wise, 66% possession compared to 34% possession that St. Louis has in this one. And by the way, I think the last two games that, or the last couple of games that St. Louis has played at home, they have just got absolutely throttled their opposition at home, and we'll see whether or not if that kind can continue, because again, teams maybe they at first they thought that they can put this formula of sitting back against the St. Louis side, and see whether they can break teams down, and in this game we're kind of shown that St. Louis could break opposition down, even if they are at times giving the possession. But that being said, I will also say that Sporting KC basically reverted back to the time when they started the season with 10 games without a win, because yeah, this was just a horrible performance by Sporting KC. And I also wonder whether or not if fatigue could be a factor too, because again, St. Louis, they didn't play in the middle of the week. They were one of 3 teams that didn't play in midweek, and Sporting KC did, and you can clearly see the fatigue maybe was a factor, especially in the beginning part of this game. But that being said, moving on into the next match is LAFC versus the San Jose Earthquakes. So this is not a big surprise, the fact that the Quakes lost this one. I mean, I mentioned before it would take a miracle for the Quakes to win this one, but to be fair, they almost pull off a draw out of this game. But as it's been kind of the problem for the Quakes this season, they just cannot close out games on the road. I mean, it's just something that I think is going to come back to haunt them, if they're going to miss out on the playoffs, where in this first third of the season on the road, where they're still searching for their first win of the season. They probably would have had it if they were able to close out games in this one, and they came so close of doing so in this one against LAFC. Though early on, it looked like it was going to get ugly, because just 3 minutes into this game, Stepan Buke would score from Cifuentes and Hollinshead, and I immediately wrote, this could get ugly for the Quakes, because LAFC, once they get that first goal, they are definitely going to be hungry to get that second or third goal. In fact, in the first 15 minutes, I mean, not only the fact that the Quakes looked completely flat coming out of the gate, it was all LAFC. Like LAFC was just controlling the play, and was just almost, it almost felt like it was a training session, with the way that they were knocking the ball around so crisply, and that the Quakes were just chasing shadows. And I thought, oh well, looks like it's that kind of a game where the Quakes are just gonna get absolutely dominate. But give the Quakes credit, they did start to get themselves back into this game. Mule did have the first opportunity for the Quakes, but he blasted high from long range before, on the other end, Burgush would do the same thing, but this time he puts it high from close in the 25th minute. Then Rodriguez would hit it wide from close before Espinoza would puts it high from long range. And again, the Quakes, they're starting to get into this game after just a slow start to this one. They were getting themselves into this game. In fact, they were actually leading the shots too. I mean, despite the fact that I know LAFC kind of dominated the play, the LAFC didn't really create too many opportunity. It almost felt like LAFC was just kind of putting into fourth gear, just kind of cruising their way, and that the Quakes are kind of giving them a little bit of a wake up call too, because yeah, they're gonna get themselves back in the game and leading shots 5-3 in favor of them. Bogush then mishied on the free kick in the 3rd minute stoppage time, before in the 5th minute stoppage time, Marie just missed it wide from close range. I mean, that was close in terms of the Quakes getting themselves the equalizer. We do head to halftime with LAFC leading 1-0 in this one. In the second half, Opoku would hit one right to Mark Sinkowski, before in the 49th minute, the post would deny Espinoza after just a rare bad turnover from LAFC. You usually do not see this LAFC defense make a mistake, but they made a mistake here, and Espinoza almost punished them. And again, I thought the Quakes, they were having their moments, they were getting these big opportunity, but they gotta at some point take these opportunity, because when you face against a team like LAFC, and especially your heavy underdogs going on the road, you have to take advantage of these chances. And it feels like the Quakes probably saw what I wrote, because just a couple minutes after I wrote that, they would tie the game up. And they kind of tied it in a very unorthodox way as Triaco basically decided to do a random layout. I mean, basically decided to do a little cross shot there trying to maybe cross one and dink it into the box, but it was kind of overhit. But McCarthy, yeah, I don't think he realized that this one was toward goal because as that ball was kind of coming in, really he got completely fooled. Like he got completely fooled to a point where he was almost praying the fact that that ball maybe can go over his head. But instead, it went into the back of the net. So, yeah, that was kind of one of the strangest goal, and probably not the way I envisioned the Quakes would get that tying goal. But I'll take it. You know, it ties the game up at one apiece. Though, that being said, LAFC immediately pressed back and looked to try to retake the lead. And to make sure of that, they brought out the cavalry. Bawanga, Tillman, and Vela was summoned into this game. And I thought, well, it's so much for the Quakes to hold on to this 1-1 draw, because when you bring on those kind of weapons, yeah, most likely the Quakes are probably gonna lose this. But the Quakes credit, they were kind of holding on. Well, Mark Sikowski did deny Buke from close range before Holland's head would heads it wide from close. And again, I thought it was all hands on deck for the Quakes as LAFC was pushing once again for the lead and actually pressing hard for the lead. And as the time winds down, I thought maybe they did enough in terms of getting the reserve. But as I said before, this is a team that has had problems in terms of closing out games on the road, and they come back to haunt them again. In the second minute of stoppage time, a penalty was given to LAFC as VAR deemed that Beeson handballed that one. And I know there's going to be those LAFC haters that's going to say, well, it looks like LAFC once again got saved by VAR. No. This was pretty clear that it was a handball. Like when you look at it, it was pretty clear in daylight that Beeson, when that ball hit his hand, it was in an unnatural position. I mean, that is as clear as a handball as it gets. So yeah, that gives LAFC the penalty, and Vela basically steps up. He makes no mistake here to make it 2-1 in favor of LAFC, and that would be the final score of this game. Shots in this one, 14 shots for both of these teams. 6 shots on goal compared to 3 that the Quakes had. 4 shots off target for the 9 that the Quakes had. 4 shots that was blocked for the 2 that the Quakes had. And possession-wise, 56% possession compared to the 44% possession that the Quakes has in this game. And like I said, you know, the Quakes, they play well in this one. They really went toe to toe against this LAFC team. And again, LAFC, this is a team that's been having some issue when they face against the Quakes. I don't know why that is the case, but you know, they able to just do enough to get the victory. But again, for the Quakes, kind of frustrating the fact that they play well in this one, but again, just the inability to close out games on the road. This has got to be something that is very frustrating to see. And what's kind of even more frustrating is that they do it well at home. Like we've seen before where they try to close out games at home, and they do an excellent job in terms of it. But when it comes to their road form, that and try to put in the same situation, they just do a poor job at it. And I know obviously the crowd being on the road, it's tougher to close out game because you know you're trying to deal with the noise and the opposition fan trying to will their home team a goal. But still, I mean, this is where the mentality's got it change under Luchi Gonzalez. Like so far, I think Luchi Gonzalez has done a great job. But if there's one thing that will very frustrates me about Luchi Gonzalez this season is the inability to close out these resort on the road. That again, it could come back to haunt them if they don't make it to the playoffs. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 2 game on of this match week number 14 action, aka Heineken Rivalry Week Part 2. So, as I said before, both of the team that I root for that played this weekend had complete opposite outcome in terms of stoppage time, and I mentioned the Quakes with a bit of a heartbreaking loss against LAFC, but it was the complete opposite for Minnesota United. And I gotta say, this really felt like it was a smash and grab for the Loons against the Portland Timbers, because the Timbers, they were pushing hard to try to get the win in this one, and yet Minnesota kind of steal this one and steal all 3 points in this one with a gritty 1-0 win against the Timbers. Now, early on, I thought the Timbers were on the front foot and they were bringing the energy, and despite that, I thought the Loons kind of had some half chances, but once again, the final third play was kind of a problem. It was just not there. In fact, the shots were only 1-0 in favor of Portland, as it was kind of a bit of a dull start for both of these teams coming out of the gate, despite the fact that both of these teams were trying to get the opening goal. Though in the 19th minute, Ivicic would deny Amaria in the near post before he denied Dotson from long range, and then he denied Rosales from close in the 28th minute, and the Loons were knocking on the door. Like, they were putting sustained pressure in this one, but the question is, can they solve Ivicic? I mean, it looked like this is going to be one of those games where Ivicic, he has had those games before where he if he needs to come up big, he's been able to do so, and looks like he's going to try to steal a point or steal victory for the Portland Timbers in this one. Rosales then hits one right to Ivicic before McGraw did heads it wide in the back post before he also heads it wide in the back post just a couple of minutes later. I thought Minnesota had some issue in terms of whenever those balls come into the box, especially them not able to get to the first ball and allow the Timbers back, center backs to get to it, as we see with Zach McGraw a couple of times in this one. But I also thought the Timbers got back into this game. Like, they were pressing to try to get that lead heading into the second half, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. By the way, keep in mind, coming into this game, we did not have a no draw coming into this one, and so it was getting very close. It looks like this is going to be that 0-0 draw that, of course, was for this week. But as we mentioned in just a bit, that of course was not the case. Though in the 49th minute, McGraw had a header that was clear off the line there for the Loons. Again, the Loons was just having a lot of issue in terms of dealing with Zach McGraw whenever he heads it in. The Timbers again on the front foot, and it just feels like the Loons were already hanging on. Like, it looked like Adrian Heath has activated road Heath mode. They're just gonna bunker for the entire game and just pray for a 0-0 result. The post would then deny Evander with his long range effort. It was a very quiet game for Evander in this one. I mean, for the past couple of games, we have seen Evander has been a huge difference maker for this Portland Timber side. Not tonight. I mean, besides that chance he had in the 65th minute, and also Dane Sinclair did tip over Evander chips over. It was a relatively quiet game for Evander, and that's a good job there from that Minnesota backline, really shutting down Evander for the most part in this one. Up to that point, shots was 77 in favor of the Portland Timbers, but the shots on goal was still 4-2 in favor of Minnesota. And again, that maybe is an indictment of the fact that, yes, the Timbers are creating those chances. These are low percentage chances, and just none of them were on target enough to really test Dane Sinclair, and that's got to be frustrating if you're a fan of a team that has that outcome where you're putting the pressure, but you're not really putting the shots on goal to really test the goalkeeper. And believe me, I know Timbers fans are very frustrated up to that point. I can relate to that as a Minnesota fan, seeing that has happened multiple times this season too. Arriaga then had a shot that was blocked off the line by Paredes before Paredes actually hits one right to Dane Sinclair. So what you mentioned, if that would be a crazy moment. The fact that Paredes saved the goal there, and then on the other end he would score just a couple of minutes later. Bravo then pulls it just wide from close range, as the shots were now 19-8 in favor of the Timbers. But again, it's still only 3 shots on goal of those 19s that they put in. McGraw would then hits it straight to Dane Sinclair, and again, as the time winds down, it looks like Minnesota just did enough to get themselves a 0-0 draw. But then they have one more chance on the other end, and as the times wind down, they have one last chance to maybe steal all 3 points in this one, and they did. It's Longwane. He scored here from Arriaga and Garcia to give the Loons the 3 points in this one and the smash and grab win. And really, you got to give credit to all 3 of these guys, because pretty much the entire Minnesota team decided to be on the other end. They were just thinking, well, it looks like we're not really going to attack. We're not going to take any more risk to seize out this nil result. But give credit to these 3 guys. They were going forward on the attack. They were hoping to maybe steal that one last chance before the time expire. And also, you got to say, for this Timbers back line, yeah, I mean, that Timbers back line just completely switched off. Even the goalkeeper, Ivicic, I mean, I mentioned how he had a great game up to this point, but yeah, this was not a great moment for him. He needs to come out to get that. Longwane was just getting so many time to shoot that one, and that, yeah, he picked that bottom left corner. It gives Minnesota a 1-0 lead. I'm not gonna lie, I did really celebrate when this went in because I couldn't believe the fact that this team would. I mean, getting a point out of this game, I would say, is kind of considered a bit of a miracle because Rohit mode doesn't always work well, but it rare. This was one of the rare time it worked. But to get a smash and grab win like that, especially with the way how this team has been dealing with injury again with Robin Lud out for the past or out for these next couple of weeks and maybe these next couple of months, and always also great to see that Long Wan paid that tribute by doing the Robin Lud uh bow and arrow celebration. Yeah, I mean that was this looked like it was the Minnesota team from earlier this season, a team that is very gritty, very defensive, organized, and somehow able to nick a resort on the road or nick a goal on the road to get all 3 points. And again, that's exactly what happened in this one. Shots in this one, I do not believe it's 18 shots compared to 9 because I mentioned how there was 19 shots. I think it should be 20 shots in this one because I swear when I look at Apple TV they mentioned there's like 19 shots compared to 8 that was in favor of the Timbers. So MLS must kind of messed up in terms of counting the shots, but at least according to them it's 18 shots compared to 9 that Minnesota had. 6 shots on goal compared to 3 that the Timbers had. Again, that just tells the story. When you have that many shots like the Timbers had and not enough on the goal, it's no surprise that they did not come out on the winning side in this one. 5 shots off target for the 1 that Minnesota has. 2 shots that was blocked with the 10 that the Timbers had. Yeah, safe to say that those defenders for Minnesota was really putting it all out in this one. And possession-wise, 55% possession compared to the 45% possession that Minnesota has in this game. And like I said, for the Timbers, a very frustrating game because of the way that again I don't think that they play well in this one, especially just them not able to solve this Loons back line and also just kind of run into this back line of this Minnesota team that surprisingly they did not get tired in this one. I mean, we talked about so far this week where there's been a lot of goals that's been conceded by the other team because of tired legs on the defensive front. Not this Minnesota team. I mean, this is the third game in 7 days, and that back line looked like it's as fresh as it gets. Now, obviously, we'll see whether or not if that's going to be the same case when they go on the road against the Dynamo in the U.S. Open Cup, and again, that would be now the fourth game in 10 days, and that's where it can really test that back line if Adrian Heath decide to go with the same lineup. But until when we worry about that game in actually just tomorrow as that game is gonna happen, I'm definitely gonna be enjoying this one, and that seems like this team has started to be back on track after they just had a really miserable April and even in the beginning of May. But that being said, moving on into the last match I'm going to review for match week number 14 is the Whitecaps and the Sounders. So the Whitecaps, they bounce back with a 2-0 win against the Sounders, and there maybe is some concern if you're a Seattle Sounders fan of the fact that this is now back-to-back performance that they look flat throughout the 90 minutes of this game. Though early on, Yamar did had a chance to give the Sounders the lead, but he hits it wide from the corner before Jermaine Brown would miss it just wide in front of the net. Arriaga then missed it wide from close range before Gall would also put it wide from close. As I thought that was some good chance for both of these team, and this opening goal should be coming soon, and it did. In the 44th minute, it's Vite, the one that gives the Whitecaps a 1-0 lead, but it was kind of a gift from the Sounders because Alex Rodon, I mean, this was a just a mishap here. He was trying to chest this one back to Fry there and just got it completely wrong here. He instead chested right into the for Petro Vite, and Vite said, "Thank you very much. I'm gonna put this one in." And yeah, that the Whitecaps were leading 1-0 heading into the second half. Now in the second half, it was almost 2-0 if White was able to put this one in, but instead he hits it right to Fry before Laborda would miss it just wide in the 57th minute. And the Whitecaps, again, they were pressing to try to get that second goal, looking to do so, and they did in the 63rd minute. And originally, they would actually credit this as a Ryan Gall goal, but on closer look, I can understand why they said it's an own goal for Stephen Fry because this looks like it was on one of those unfortunate one where it bounced off the post and basically hits the back of the goalkeeper, and that's exactly what happened. Hits the back of Fry on the shot that was hit off the post and in. So yeah, that obviously is going to be an own goal. Though again, that's one of the one that I know it hits the post, But I feel like Fry should have saved that. I mean, with the caliber of goalkeeper Stefan Fry is, you would expect him to save that one. And I think also it's not a surprise that the Seattle Sounders are kind of regressing in the last couple of games, because when you have even your best player like Stefan Fry, or even on the attacking end like Jordan Morris kind of regressing a little bit. Keep in mind, you notice how I haven't mentioned Jordan Morris' name at once in this one. He had a really quiet game in this one. There has to be a lot of concern if you're a Sounders fan. But in the 65th minute, Rusnak did look for an instant response, but Takaoka was able to deny him on the header before Berhalter would hit one right to Fry, and then White would miss heads it that goes right to Fry. And really, as the time winds down, the Whitecaps, they look like they were in cruise control. Like the Sounders, they look like they were down and out, and this is where maybe kind of the fatigue factor has got to the Sounders team, where again, with a lot of teams that have played 3 games in 7 days, it's kind of hard to trying to push like to make the game interesting. Though Abear did have a chance in the second minute of stoppage time, but he missed wide there to give a consolation for the Sounders. And in the end, the Whitecaps, they walk away with a 2-0 victory. As the shots in this one, 17 shots for the 8 that the Sounders had, 5 shots on goal for the 1 that the Sounders had, 8 shots off target for the 4 that the Sounders had, 3 shots as blocked for the 4 that the Whitecaps had, and possession-wise, 45% possession compared to 55% possession that the Sounders had in this game. And like I said, for the Seattle Sounders, there's got to be a lot of concern with how they've been playing in these last couple of games. And I know injuries has been an issue for this team, especially. It feels like losing the presence of Christian Rodon has really kind of hurt this team. But still, every team deals with injuries, and I think you can also say the depth of this team is not as good as what was thinking that was the case with the Sounders team. I mean, to be fair, that was kind of the thing with this team, where I feel like this team doesn't have as much depth as we've seen previous Sounders team has, and that they gotta have to figure things out, because this is supposed to be a team that's supposed to contend for MLS Cup, and they could still do so if they do get all of their main starter back healthy, but it's definitely not looking likely in these next couple of games, and they're gonna have to find a way to get themselves back on track. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of the last 6 games for match week number 14, and the review for all these games as part of Heineken Rivalry Week Part 2. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these games as always. Let me know in the comments below which game kind of surprised you from this review, or even in the previous review that I did, because there were also some surprising resort that we've seen in some of these games too, and also some high drama game that we've seen in some of these games as well. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys hit the like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.